Hello, everyone, and welcome to another podcast episode of Exceeding Your Benchmark, brought to you by Benchmark Products. I'm your host for today, Gabrielle, and I'm thrilled to be joined right now by Ashley Harp, who is lead process engineer at CRB. So without further ado, welcome, Ashley, and thanks for being here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Let's go ahead and do a brief introduction for you as well.
Good afternoon, everybody. As Gabby said, my name is Ashley Harp, and I'm a lead process engineer with CRB, where we design and build some of the most powerful facilities in the world, those that change people's lives. We have offices across the US, Canada, and the DACH region in Europe. And my personal experience ranges from design, construction, and commissioning of these types of facilities, as well as process operations across a number of advanced technologies.
So, Ashley, with technology and science rapidly progressing, traditional types of manufacturing are now merging. For example, one of these being combining highly potent APIs and monoclonal antibodies into antibody drug conjugates. So I wanted to ask you, just what are some of the challenges that you see companies are facing when they're adapting these kinds of changes?
Yeah, when we talk about these changes, right, what we're really talking about is changes in drug delivery. And we're allowing companies to provide targeted therapies. So a lot of exactly what you said on ADCs, right? That is a big leap forward, and it's one of my favorite areas of this shift and this change. And just a little bit of background is ADCs are a combination of highly potent active pharmaceutical ingredients. I try to reduce my use of acronyms, but I'm going to do it all day. I'm sorry. And those are HPAPIs. They're also known as cytotoxins and payloads, and there's a number of other terms used, but they are chemically bound to monoclonal antibodies, which are MABs, via a linker. And the aim of these is to increase the therapeutic window by delivering a drug directly to a target cell and to minimize off-target effects and systemic responses. In ADCs, the MAB acts as the delivery vehicle, and an HPAPI provides the toxic effect to the cell. Some other methodologies that we're seeing in this broad change across the industry that are allowing companies to adapt to advancements in therapeutic requirements are lipid nanoparticles, LNPs, peptides, oligonucleotides, and there's a broad range allowing these changes to come. And even though these therapies have been around and studied for a really long time, the recent improvements in synthesis, linker technologies, regulatory approvals, these are all driving some of the rapid growth and change. And I could talk about all these things for a really long time, and I've led some talks internally, but some of the challenges I do want to highlight are, I think, critical to where the industry is driving. With respect to ADC manufacturing, I used to say that there needed to be a balance between containment and clean and aseptic design, right? Why was there this balance? Well, the equipment and the facilities were designed for either aseptic manufacturing or to allow for product protection or for containment and personnel protection. Well, in the past 10 years or so, our industry has made some significant advances, which is really exciting to help bring about these changes. There's no longer a need for a trade-off whether you get product protection or personnel protection. The standard and the expectations are now both. We've completed risk assessments, changed design of equipment, improved facility design, all to allow for high standards for both personnel protection as well as product protection. There have been advancements in cleaning practices and materials, and one of the biggest challenges that manufacturers face are developing new test methods to allow for, after cleaning, to test for the presence of or absence of these new products. There's no magic test that identifies all the new chemicals that are being developed. Um, Another challenge that we're facing is lack of adequate manufacturing capacity. Excuse me. Even we've all heard of the drastic increase in manufacturing capacity due to um, COVID-related products. Well, these facilities are still focused on COVID. Um, and I can't take an ADC and produce it in a vaccine line that was designed for high speed, high throughput. We need to right design for the right products. And we continue to believe that there's a need for increased manufacturing capacity for these specialty products, which are more complex from a formulation or a manufacturing standpoint. So there are a lot of CMOs and CDMOs out there that are working hard to fill that gap. So that's a big. Um, it's not a shift per se, but um, it's a big change from large pharma manufacturing to outsourcing to CDMOs, and a lot of people aren't necessarily comfortable with that. Um, we've seen this information shared. We did a survey recently by just about 500 industry leaders, and issued a report where we saw that they are leaning a lot more on CMOs and CDMOs to help speed to market. Um, so we're also seeing that these specialty products are in addition to chasing blockbuster drugs. So there's really no slowdown in the market, and there's really no slowdown in innovation. So all of those are some of the challenges that we are facing, along with rapid development leads to kind of a lag in regulatory guidances and requirements. So it's really important that people are working closely with the regulatory agencies and SMEs to ensure that they're meeting industry standards and expectations. With rapid innovation, that's one of the critical areas that I think we need to keep focus on.
Well, it's good we have a focus for the upcoming year. And, as we begin to start talking about manufacturing, Ashley, what kind of expertise is needed when a company is transitioning from maybe clinical to commercial life
Yeah, so in,
science
in
manufacturing?
clinical, on the clinical side of things, right, the goal is to produce small scale, get it to market, make sure that it's safe, and we could be producing 30 doses. Um, it could increase to thousands of doses if the scale of the clinical trial is larger, or as we get, excuse me, further down the clinical phases. You're looking in a clinical facility to pivot between different drug products and rapid change between those products, and ensuring that you've got quick cleaning and turnaround of those types of facilities. They're doing a lot of work in improving patient facing dosing and ease of delivery. So you could be changing from a vial to a single use syringe, and creating more robust delivery systems. As we move into late phase clinical and commercial manufacturing, we move to a much larger scale where the processes need to be much more efficient. So methods for personnel and material movement into and out of the facility, ensuring that that space remains clean, all of those need to be evaluated. We need to understand the increased use of cleaning materials and sanitizing agents, understanding building codes and OSHA requirements. There are some significant changes to gowning requirements and gowning materials as you move into commercial manufacturing. So, excuse me, all of these lead to really very detailed design aspects and close coordination between all of the team members going into design of a facility like this. Um, a key that is really important in the past and especially moving forward are contamination control strategies. Um, there are there's really a focus on from the regulatory bodies on ensuring that products are safe and effective as they always have been, but there's some increased expectations where each manufacturer now has to prove that they have contamination control strategies for microbial contamination, for cross contamination of products, for contamination from people, molds and bacteria that you bring in from the outside on your hands, on your shoes, things like that. So understanding how to implement airflow, air filtration, facility and equipment cleaning, product filtration, that's all built into your CCS. And when you add closed processing on top of that, that those control strategies are just improving product quality and protection of the product, and in the end, the patients, right? Waste handling, as you get into commercial manufacturing, is becoming an area of particular focus as scale increases for these types of facilities, and there is an increased focus on reducing waste and ensuring that we are leaving the environment in a better shape than it was when we started. So sustainability is becoming a big focus, and with that, improvements in waste handling are becoming a topic that we are paying a lot more attention to. And there's a whole discussion on that I won't get into because that's not necessarily what we're here to talk about, but it's one of my passions.
Another podcast
Exactly,
for
exactly.
another time, episode 2. We can make this a two-part. Well, there's just so many considerations, Ashley, that I mean, what we're discussing when companies are considering this transition. But there's two major ones, which is companies deciding whether or not that they should be building or adapting their own in-house manufacturing facilities or choosing to partner with a CMO. So what is your advice to them?
So there's some really good pros and cons lists out there and presentations and webinars on on step by step how to do this. But two or three of the most critical things that we need to be looking at, especially right now, are experience and scheduling. Um, Along with your robustness of your internal quality systems. So for the experience side, it's really critical that companies truly evaluate their internal manufacturing expertise for the whole process. Can they manufacture just part of the process? Do they have experience in the entire thing? Should they outsource? Should they really be honest and say, we don't have experience with this, we need to outsource our entire process, or can we manage some of that internally? And then scheduling, right? The hard part about putting a product in a CMO or a CDMO is scheduling. It there we've excuse me, during the pandemic, and still are seeing lead times of over 2 years for some small batch production. So those are really kind of the couple things that you have to balance, along with um, the regulatory expectations for your risk management, along quality as well as environmental and safety. So ensuring that you are talking to the right CDMO or CMO with experience is a critical item. Over the last couple of years, we've seen an increase in lead times of equipment and availability for procurement. Um, so the main questions you want to ask yourself are: what's your required time to market? Do you have time to design and build a facility? Can you get into your CDMO partner schedule? Um, and then balance the cost of outsourcing your experience, keeping your people as after you've trained them, and your manufacturing demand. So those are really, to me, the critical items that you want to be looking at. And then potentially you pursue a hybrid approach where you work with a CMO partner and then as you're building your own facility. So it's really looking at your pipeline too, and ensuring that that partnership um, is well maintained.
Well maintained, but also that just fits well within your company's day to day and kind of what you're describing. I mean, honest, a lot of companies are doing, yeah. I mean, if anything, COVID has brought on is like this hybrid approach where companies are, it doesn't have to be a one size fits all approach for all companies. So there are those abilities there. And, Ashley, as a follow up, I wanted to ask you, when we're designing these new facilities, as far as things to keep in mind, how should companies take their future development goals into account? Like, how much does that take part into when the design
Yeah, so
process is
to
happening?
me, the flexibility is key, right? Um, Allowing for expansion as well as process optimization. So I'm a process engineer. I want to make sure that we're running the best, most efficient process for you, right? Um, and so that future look, you're looking at your future pipeline as well as expected market demand is, do you need to be flexible, and how flexible do you need? Everybody needs that ability, but what does that look like, right? We're in this hurry up, everything needs to be fast, get it to market, but sometimes we need to slow down to do that speed up, right? Sometimes taking a step back and really evaluating what your goals are for the future and what that pipeline looks like, can save you significant time in whether you're going to a CMO or you're building your own facility. But specifically, if you're building your own facility, if you're looking at your pipeline and you say 90% of my products have are mostly common, right? I have 10% that are one offs. If we try to design for that 10%, we may not hit our goals for speed to market for the other 90%. So, does it make sense to keep that 90% internal, design for that, and um, work with a partner for that remaining 10% that doesn't really fit into the design criteria for the rest of the facility?
Well, actually, I also wanted to ask you what types of manufacturing equipment and systems and products do you most commonly recommend you find that for companies to remain agile and also comply with GMP?
Yep. So I am going to steal the "it depends" answer. And so I know everybody always hates that. It can be a combination of a lot of discussions and expectations and requirements from the owner side. And so on the manufacturing side, really, for some companies, the ideal system includes all single use technology, from a reactor to an isolator to a purification system. If they meet the containment requirements and compatibility requirements, that might make the most sense depending on how often your changeover is, per different products, and what your contamination control strategy looks like. For some companies, ideally, it includes all stainless equipment, or alloy, depending on compatibility. And for some, it's really a combination of both. So we want to evaluate short versus long term strategies, and that's really a key driver for us. There've been a lot of advancements recently in both materials that are available for cleaning, as well as testing techniques. And so, where a facility may in the past have needed to use all single use because they could not prove that materials were not present. Because of these new cleaning products and techniques, as well as testing, you may be able to move into stainless and alloy equipment because you can show that you're able to remove any product from a prior run. And then cross contamination is not a question anymore. So it's really and it depends answer, and I hate to use that, but in this case, that's really what it is. And for us at CRB, a lot of the engineers this is really one of the most fascinating areas that we're focused on. Things change, right? We're rapidly changing. We're seeing all of these growth in different areas and equipment and facility designs and filtration technology. And so it really is exciting to help with those evaluations and work on those recommendations. So that's kind of the equipment side of things, right? On the utility side, um, like I said, we're looking at air filtration systems. We're looking at upgrades and innovations in air handling systems for sustainability purposes. We are recommending a lot of materials and facility designs that are leading to reduced greenhouse gases. So, or facilities want to become carbon neutral. So there's a lot more going on in the industry than just what I focus on in the equipment, right? Um, and then from an operations perspective, based on the outcomes of your contamination control strategy and how that is developed, we'll provide recommendations for gowning and PPE, clean room compatible cleaning materials. So there's really a whole range, and in the facility that we partner with people on and make recommendations for.
Fantastic. Well, that wraps up the conversation for today. So thank you to everyone who joined in to listen to this episode of Exceeding Your Benchmark with Ashley Harp. It was a pleasure to have you on the podcast, Ashley. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Gabby. It was great. It was really exciting.
Of course. And as always, if you want to learn more, please visit benchmarkproducts.com and look for this podcast wherever it is you get your podcasts at. Thanks for watching.